Please don't forget subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notified of new daily videos.
Moving into the old Oak Haven rental house felt less like a fresh start and more like a concession. It was cheap, isolated, and smelled perpetually of dust and damp earth. But after everything with my parents, well, it was all I could afford. My younger sister, Carol, 10 years old and far too quiet since the accident, deserved better, but she just nodded when I showed her the faded wallpaper and creaking floorboards. "It has character, Donnie," she'd said, trying to be brave. She was always trying to be brave for me. One afternoon, a few weeks after we'd settled in, I decided to tackle the attic. The previous tenants had left a lot of junk. Tucked away in a cobwebbed corner, beneath a pile of mildewed newspapers, I found an old, sturdy wooden box. It had a hinged lid and an antique brass clasp. Inside, wrapped in yellowed tissue paper, were dozens of glass plate negatives and rolls of film, all brittle with age. An old-fashioned camera, a heavy, leather-bound monstrosity, lay beneath them. I'd always been fascinated by old photography, so I carefully took a few of the negatives to Fabian Serrano, the owner of the small photo shop in town. He was a kindly old man with thick glasses and ink-stained fingers. A few days later, I had a stack of prints. They were mostly mundane, faded landscapes, the Oak Haven house itself from decades ago, an empty swing set in what was now our overgrown backyard, and a few blurred figures in the distance. Nothing remarkable, just a glimpse into the past. I showed Carol, who found the old-timey dresses in some of the distant shots amusing. Then, a week later, I found another negative tucked inside a picture frame that had been propped up in the hallway, a frame I was certain had been empty. This one was different. When I got it developed, it showed our living room, but from a perspective that defied logic. It was taken from high above, almost as if the camera was floating near the ceiling. And in the shadowy corner, barely visible, was a dark, indistinct smudge. I dismissed it as dust on the negative, a trick of the light. But the next one, that's when the ice truly started forming in my gut. I found it tucked beneath Carol's pillow. She swore she hadn't seen it before. Fabian, his brow furrowed, developed it quickly. It was a photo of Carol sleeping in her bed. And again, the angle was wrong, directly overhead. The details were unsettlingly clear. I felt a cold dread crawl up my spine. No one else had a key to the house. No one. I checked all the locks, all the windows. Nothing was disturbed. Carol started mentioning things. Whispers in the night, the feeling of being watched. She'd wake up, convinced someone was standing over her bed. I tried to reassure her, even though my own heart pounded every time a floorboard creaked. I gathered all the negatives, the camera, and the prints, and tried to burn them in the backyard. The old film just curled and blackened, refusing to fully incinerate. The glass plates stubbornly remained intact, warm to the touch even after hours in the smoldering ash. I buried them, deep beneath the gnarled roots of the old oak tree in the yard, hopping to bury the dread with them. It didn't work. The next morning, a fresh, perfectly developed photograph lay on our kitchen counter, face down. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It was a close-up of the oak tree in the backyard, taken from inside the house, looking out. And at the base of the tree, where I'd buried the box, a mound of disturbed earth was clearly visible. It had been watching me. The surveillance intensified. Photos would appear in impossible places, taped to the inside of Carol's closet door, tucked into my worn-out work boots, even wedged into the back of the television. They were always of us, always from intrusive, impossible angles, sometimes distorted, sometimes just there. A blurred reflection in the window, a dark shape in a mirror, always in the background, always watching. One evening, Carol and I were downstairs, trying to pretend everything was normal, watching a bad movie. Suddenly, from upstairs, from Carol's bedroom, came a distinct click, followed by the soft whirring sound of an old film advancing. It was unmistakable. My blood ran cold. "Carol, go to the pantry. Now, don't make a sound," I hissed, pushing her towards the kitchen. She looked at me, her eyes wide with fear, but she obeyed. I grabbed the heavy iron poker from beside the fireplace, my knuckles white on the cold metal. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I crept up the stairs, each step a thunderclap in the oppressive silence. The attic access was a small hatch in the ceiling of the upstairs hallway, not far from Carol's room. As I neared her door, the air grew heavy, colder. I pushed the door open slowly, poker raised. The room was dark, but I could make out the shape of her bed, her dresser. And on her pillow, lying perfectly flat, was a newly printed, sepia-toned photograph. It wasn't a negative. It was a physical print, still slightly warm from recent development. I stumbled forward, my eyes fixed on the image. It was a close-up, grotesque, distorted shot of my face, mouth agape, eyes wide with terror, taken from behind the couch downstairs just seconds ago as I'd heard the click. My own horror, perfectly captured and presented. And then I heard it, a whisper like dry leaves rustling across a stone floor right behind me. It spoke my name. Donovan. I spun around, poker swinging wildly. Nothing, just the shadows, the silence, and the oppressive cold. But it had been there. I felt its presence, a weight on the air. My mind screamed at me. It was a distraction. It's not after you. It's after Carol. I bolted downstairs, fear lending wings to my feet. Carol was huddled in the pantry, a tiny ball of terror. I scooped her up, barely whispering, "We're leaving now, don't look back." We didn't grab anything, not a single thing. We ran out the front door, leaving the lights on, the movie still playing, the house a silent testament to our terror. We drove for hours, leaving Oak Haven behind, and eventually found refuge with my Aunt Zeta in a completely different state. Months passed. The nightmares faded into distant echoes. Carol started smiling again, making new friends. I found a decent job, a quiet apartment. We were safe. We were starting over. The Oak Haven house became a chilling memory, a story I hoped we'd both eventually forget. Last week, Carol was reading her favorite fairy tale book, the one she'd insisted on bringing from Oak Haven despite my haste. She came to me, holding a tiny, faded photograph, no bigger than her thumbnail. It was almost like an old tintype, the edges curled and sepia-toned. She said she'd found it tucked between 2 pages, a place she swore she'd checked 100 times before. It was a crystal-clear image of the Oak Haven house, taken from an impossible aerial perspective, as if from a silent drone high above. And in the window of Carol's old bedroom, perfectly focused, a blurred, dark figure stood. It was looking directly out, straight at the camera. On the back, in faint, almost imperceptible script, were 2 words. "Still watching, Donovan." I keep the photograph hidden now, a constant reminder. Sometimes I swear I hear a faint click when Carol laughs. I don't know what it wants. I just know it's still out there and it's still looking.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button to like it. And please do subscribe to support the channel.